Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon, back from Houston. Shea,
Whoop,
how you
whoop.
feeling?
Tired, but back from Houston with the dub. It doesn't matter if Sawyer Robertson threw for 445 yards on 51 attempts. It doesn't matter that Baylor put over 500 yards. The season ended. LSU won. You get to 9 wins, but you win a bowl game, Matty B. I always say, I know for coaches and teams, winning that bowl game sets a good tone for the offseason. And since Brian Kelly's been here, they've won all three of their bowl games, but we haven't experienced, fortunately, losing that game and having to then go through an offseason with that sour taste in your mouth, plus trying to figure out what's happening next year. So we figured we'd do a little mix up today, Matty B. First out, shout out, Happy New Year to all the Bengal Tiger family out there. If you're not on the Bengal Tiger and On3, it's only $1. As we record this on a Thursday, LSU is trending to get another commit, top 10 D lineman. They're heavy in the portal still, searching for safeties. Uh, SEC play is beginning for the basketball team. So, Matty B, we are locked and loaded. So, Happy New Year to all the Bengal Tiger subscribers, everybody who listens to the pod. And like I said, if you're not a member yet, still just $1 to sign up and check it out. But to do a little things differently, Matty B, ring in the new year, I said we would do 10 things that stood out from the bowl game, the season, but into the off season. That way we could kind of mix it all in. And I let you go first. You know my five because I sent them to you. I don't know your five. I
Yes,
only sent them to you so that you wouldn't double up. So hopefully you
yes,
didn't.
no,
Number one, Bengal Tiger subscribers will know this. Bengal Tiger subscribers who live in the live threads will know this even more. But Matthew, your number one storyline, and these are in no real order, but your number one storyline is the keys to the bus have been cranked. Matty B was on it all off season. Your boy, LSU's pride and joy, Garrett Nussmeier, the MVP of the Texas Bowl, Matty B, will be who you think we should talk about first as we get into the storylines of the bowl in the offseason.
yeah, I wasn't sure if we were going 1 to 10, 10 to 1, but
Nah,
yes,
it's no order. Just 1 to 10.
Nussmeier,
We'll go back and forth.
yeah, Nussmeier can easily be the number one storyline for me, and I'll go back before the offseason. I'll go back to when I was sitting in the press box when we were in Atlanta when Jaden Daniels left the game against Georgia and Nussmeier came in slinging it and gunning. I'll even go farther back if you remember his freshman year against Ole Miss when he came out throwing the ball. I have been on the Garrett Nussmeier proverbial train since he stepped on campus and I saw him throwing next to Max Johnson. I knew the arm talent was always there. The question was going to be, could he control the turnover situation? Could he become a better decision maker? And I think this season, despite ending the year with 12 interceptions, I think he proved that he is capable of doing that whenever everything's not falling apart around him as well. So whenever he is in somewhat favorable situations, I think he is a top tier quarterback. And I think next year he's only going to get better. I think that is my number one storyline. The fact that LSU got him to come back proves that next year is more than obviously what this year was. I think that raised the intensity, that raised the urgency level for everybody. And Garrett Nussmeier will go into next year as a top 3 quarterback and a top 3 Heisman votes odd or Heisman odds candidate because he is so talented. And there were times this past season where people were saying he's the best quarterback in the country, and he now comes back, and I think that is great news for LSU. That's great news for everybody, and it's put next year into, like I said, heightened urgency, a situation where they should be competing for the playoffs. And again, it all starts with Garrett Nussmeier here. So that's my number one storyline from the bowl game, from the season, and as we look ahead.
I was looking at some mock drafts this morning for this year. Will Campbell's popping back up in the top 10 in these mock drafts. I saw him at the bowl game. He's already off to start training, really all the way up until interviews and the combine and pro day and all of that. But I went through 3 mock drafts. These could all be terrible and we could be missing somebody. But Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward were the only quarterbacks that were being projected as first round picks. Would Garrett Nussmeier be a first round pick this year?
I think he would be late. Like I even think Drew Aller would be
He can
potentially.
work himself up there. Well, he's coming back though,
Yeah,
so
he is coming back too. But that's what I'm saying. Like that,
that's Penn
those
State's
two.
starting quarterback for those
Yeah, I think
nerds.
like those two could very easily be first round draft picks, like in the back half of the first round. I mean, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks in the NFL, and we've seen before teams be willing to take Michael Penix at number 8, Bo Nix at number 12. Like this is not. It would not shock me at all if teams were willing to
Well,
take those guys in the
the
first round.
last two gentlemen who spent 5 seasons in college and decided to turn pro. What did Jaden do, 5 or 4? But
5.
pro out of
He did 5.
LSU. Yeah, him and Joe both go number 1 and 2. So Nussmeier, we thought next year would be like a deeper quarterback class, and this one is a shallow one, and that's why maybe Nuss would go pro. But yes, and you touched on it. It's one of my talking points. Them getting him to come back and doing what it took to get him to come back and passing up on that and the potential to be a first round pick is major and speaks to the dedication that they have of or determination to compete next year. It's one of my talking points we have coming. But there were mistakes, Matty B. But again, I want to remind people, this was Nuss's first year starting. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he's older, but he had never started before now.
Yeah, I agree. It was a learning year. We saw it. Not a lot of
And
things went
Jaden and
right.
Joe both got better from year 1 to year 2 at LSU.
Correct. And I just think we've talked about the offense ad nauseum this year with him, his limitations, with the offensive line struggles, the receivers' limitations, and for him to come out of this year with the 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 picks, I just thought he was very, very good. And next year he will be elite.
My number 2 talking point is on Trey'Dez Green. Where did let's see where my notes went. I just said Green's a legit tight end 1 or wide receiver, whatever you want to call him, starter. And we named him our Bengal Tiger MVP.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a group vote when Matty B texted me and said, Trey'Dez MVP question mark. I said, yes, sounds great. Then when people offered up other names, Matty B on the board threw me under the bus and said he would have voted for somebody else. But,
I told Colin, I said we're gonna give Shea, because we've selected the last one, so we're gonna give Shea the choice here, Hilton or Green. Say Green.
Okay, well, Hilton's a fair choice. Nuss actually got the award. I voted for Whit Weeks in the press box because he was still second on the team in tackles, and he didn't cry when his ankle came off, and they reset it on the field, and he balled out and gave the pump it up.
Yeah.
Then his brother finished subbed in for him, tied for first on the team in tackles. But a lot of good candidates. But Trey'Dez, 6'6.5", Matty B. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 catches all year. He had 6 in this game. He had 101 yards catching all year. 53 of them came in this game. He had 4 touchdowns all year. Half of them came in this game. When you say mismatch, that's what we saw. It was a total mismatch. And he picked up a key 4th down. He really sold that second touchdown where he blocked and then released and then was wide open. Now with Pimpton in the portal, just for me, Matty B, no brainer. He's out there all the time.
I agree. He is going to be, and he was my number 1 player in this 2024 class for a reason. I mean, I expressed this time and time again how I thought he was a significantly better player than what Kamori Pimpton was. And this isn't shade to Kamori Pimpton. I just think this is like a different level of player and prospect that Trey'Dez Green is. And he showed that. I mean, for him to have only played football for, what is this now, year 4, year 3 for him, whatever it is. The hands are there, the route running is there, like the awareness is getting there. And the next step for him is blocking if he is a tight end, which I think he will be next year. So there's no reason to think he won't continue to improve. There's no reason to think that they won't throw him a lot next year. Brian Kelly has shown that he has one of the best eyes for tight ends in the country, maybe in all of football. And he did it with Mason Taylor. He saw it early. He saw it early with Trey'Dez Green. This time, Trey'Dez was a 5-star. Mason Taylor was a 3-star. So, Trey'Dez Green is awesome, and he will definitely start next year.
All right, what do you got?
All right, number 3. I did these in reverse. Let's see. The offensive line will determine the ceiling for 2025, and I think that they took a step in the right direction. Now, I say that, so that's our third point here. I say that knowing that they added Josh Thompson from the portal, they added Braylon Moore from the portal, they added a few freshmen that we really like, Kern, Thomas, Miller, all these guys. So it's going to be a different group than what we saw in the bowl game. But I was encouraged by the performance of a DJ Chester, of a Cohen Eccles, even like Tyree Adams, Mabanga. Like, they weren't perfect, but I think with a month of practice, with a month of getting those reps that they needed, I think we saw substantial improvement from that group compared to what I was expecting going in. I thought it was going to be kind of a makeshift situation where they, maybe had some busts, some whiffs. They were really solid. Baylor's not a great pass rushing team. They held up. So that gives me hope. It gives me, I wrote about this morning, that gives me some optimism moving forward that, all right, that you lose a lot of talent. That's 4 drafted offensive linemen here. But now, not only with the transfers, not only with the freshmen, but with development, I think that they have the potential to help this offense and get to where it wants to go next year with the quarterback situation, with the wide receivers, with the running backs. Like, they have those pieces, but now this offensive line will need to set the ceiling moving forward. And I think that they did a good job in the bowl game, showing that it's a higher ceiling and they're in a better spot than maybe I expected at this point.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I thought truly that Nuss might be in trouble with guys just running free after him. But not only did they protect him, but they also moved some guys around. I mean, they were, like you said, Eccles, others, Bordelon. There were guys who were
Mm-hmm.
that didn't play this year that were moving guys in the run game, which is something we wanted to see. So that is a big one too. Quick ad read here. A thank you, as always, to My Perfect Franchise. Andy Luedecke's been with us all year. We know his number by heart now. It's 404 973 9901. Andy, ANDY, at myperfectfranchise.net. And what Andy does, he's a franchise consultant, and he's been so for decades now. He's been a franchise owner, been involved in a number of different franchises at different levels, and now he's kind of shifted the focus to helping others. And whether it's leaving your current job, whether it's looking for a side hustle, whether it's just diversifying, building wealth, trying to leave a legacy, pointing your kids or some friends or family members in the right direction of maybe what they want to do with their passion, whatever it is, Andy can help. And the best part is with the Bengal Tiger On3, it's 100% free to reach out. And many of y'all have, and some of y'all have started business with Andy, and others have gotten a good feel for kind of what they need to do to get into it. But 100% free to tap into his skill set. And he can break it all down, financial requirements, the time you've got, everything else, and kind of help put it together for you. So if you've got an idea, if you're passionate about something, give him a shout at 404 973 9901 or Andy at myperfectfranchise.net. Okay, my fourth one was, I keep minimizing my screen here. Okay, I said Devon Keys, the linebacker, true freshman. We can toss Trey'Dez Green in here as a true freshman. He scored a couple touchdowns. But the youth wave, notably on defense, because we've talked about Caden Durham all year. We knew Trey'Dez Green was going to be good. You mentioned some true freshman O-linemen, but now we know like a Devon Keys will replace Greg Penn. And we didn't have that answer a month ago, and now we feel pretty good about it. We know Don McKinley is going to step up and play more at that D tackle position. So is Ahmad Burrow. I would look at a guy like Ashton Stamps. Well, he's not a freshman. PJ Woodland is someone who got his feet wet. Now it can be more of a backup for you next year and try to compete to get into the rotation more so than just being a back end guy when you didn't have numbers at the position. And look, he was a true freshman. He did what he could out there. We'll see more Deshaun Spears because he got his feet wet this year. I could be missing guys. I'm not trying to single everyone out
Relaford.
here, but absolutely Gabe Relaford. I know they took some portal guys at that edge and end spot, but he looked good in the reps he got as a true freshman. So that class is looking strong. And look, it is both sides of the ball, but I did want to give a shout out to Devon Keys. He had the pick 6 that sparked it early. It was 14-0. It never got within 10 versus Baylor. And to single digits, I should say, the deficit or the lead. And that was big for him to grab that pick, take it in. He came up with a big 4th down stop, but these guys, young guys on D, they got some run this year, even if they weren't starters. And it painted a picture to me that between the portal, the returning guys who are veterans, but then these young freshmen, Matty B, that this defense will be a lot better next year.
I agree 100%. And we've talked about the transfer portal additions, which we love. Ultimately, you have to continue to develop, and I have no reason to believe that, especially on the defensive line, the Relaford, McKinley, Bro group, I like a ton, and they have continued to get better as the years gone on. So I have high expectations for those guys. So I like that point. All right, my
It's on
next
you
one.
now.
My next one is number 5 is I want all of the Weeks brothers on LSU's roster as possible. I want as many as possible on here. Whit Weeks is a phenomenal player, and I think last year as a freshman he took his lumps and he basically he told everybody, he was like, I don't know what I'm doing half the time on the field. This year he knew what he was doing more so, and then it became like a technical thing where it was like, how do you take on the run? How do you pass cover at the level you need to? And so that's the next step. And then next year I just have expectations that he's going to put it all together and have the year that we expect him to. There's no reason why he wouldn't have that year. He is a great athlete. He has a great motor. He's a great leader. So it starts with Whit Weeks. Then for West Weeks to redshirt and play well in the bowl game, I think he will be a contributor, and he is similar to West or Witt in terms of his love for LSU and just what he does and playing with his brother. And then you add Zach Weeks in here, who I had significantly higher, and I understand the reclassifying situation makes it hard to rank him. It's very fair to rank him lower, but I was like, the tape looks like Whit Weeks. He's an incredible athlete, awesome motor, like played offense, was an awesome receiver, running back. So now you have 3 of them on your team going to next year. I just want as many of them as I can because I think they are genuinely good leaders, good people to have in the locker room, and then also they're awesome football players. Starting with Witt, West will be good next year, and we'll see how Zach is in a couple years.
Yeah, Witt. It sounded like best case scenario with his injury. I mean, they popped his ankle back in on the field. Bankston and his that staff there are top of the line for LSU. But you saw the love shown, right? Every member of the team goes out there. He pumps up the crowd. He's given thumbs up. Both fan bases gave him a standing ovation. He is the heart and soul of that defense, and really one of the team leaders, right up there with Nuss and some others, obviously. And look, Josh Williams and them. But moving forward, Witt is clearly someone this defense will follow. As you said, West, great player. And now they've got Zach. So your request has been fulfilled. You can tell David Weeks, their dad, that he's come through. Or he should say, Matty B, I've come through.
Yeah.
Yes, he was a
Thank you,
starter
sir.
at Georgia, starting center, but all 3 of his sons now lining up at LSU. And all expectations is that Witt would be back and ready to roll for next year. No problems. That is going to be fun to watch. So, and shout out West, who had to step up in a tough moment. Brother goes down. He comes in and then he ties for the team lead in tackles. So, solid showing by him, no doubt. I like that
Yeah.
one. This is kind of quick for me, but it's just a point I'm pondering. There was talk of, okay, are there offseason changes? Now, look, last year, Brian Kelly fired the entire defensive staff. That's not happening this year. Certainly on defense, they just got hired and had a very good year with what they were working with and what the standards were, where they were at the year prior, trying to get back to the LSU standard. We said pretty much like cut all that in half of being the worst defense in the country, and they did. They've added talent. They'll be fine. Offense centered around Joe Sloan and the OC, and would he remain? And all you hear is buzz. So far, there's been nothing said, but he put up points in this game. I mean,
Mhm.
they went out there and scored early and often, and they weren't on the look. They weren't on the field a ton. Baylor had some long drives
Yeah.
where then they go for 4th down, and LSU scored on a pick six, and LSU scored on a special teams touchdown. But they had a field goal blocked. I mean, they could have had more points than this. Still, I thought that what we saw from Green, I mean, they blew them out. I will call it a blowout. They were up 14 and never got within 10. Without Kyron Lacey, without CJ Daniels, without both their starting tackles, without their starting left guard, with a bunch of dudes who'd really not played O-line at all
Yeah.
year, and a bad game from Aaron Anderson. Like, yeah, that's not a great game from Aaron Anderson by his standards. He was dropping ball. Like, the stat line reads well, but Aaron Anderson will not tell you played a good game. They had other guys step up. I thought that was big time. Defensively, we've already talked about. Um, I just think with offense, I wonder, do they just hire a new tight ends coach because they've lost Slade Nagel, who was the tight ends coach to Houston, to be the OC? Does that it? And I don't think we have an answer, Matty B, right now, but I'm in that camp. I'm kind of wondering, hey, is it just hire a new tight ends coach and move forward with this continuity?
Yeah, I think it's fair. I do give Sloan credit for what they were able to do offensively. I mean, score 44 points, and it's a P4 team, Baylor, that won its last 6 games of the season, and albeit a lot of that was Baylor's
They had
offense.
not lost since October 3rd, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this was a team that came in confident, came in playing well, scored 44 on them without the aforementioned players. And Baylor returned, I believe, had most of its players playing in this game, and has a lot of players that will be significant players in 2025 playing for them in this game. So 44 points, I give Sloan a lot of credit. I thought they were crisp. I thought they were sharp. Everybody who needed to step up into their roles did so. So credit to Sloan, credit for that to that entire staff for doing that. I do agree. I don't know if there needs to be any huge changes. It wasn't a perfect year for them, but I think it also wasn't a perfect year personnel wise for them. So
Well, and yeah, and you're working with a first time quarterback, starting
yes,
quarterback. So,
yeah.
all right, number 7, what you got?
7. I'll flip it a little bit to maybe a little bit not negative, but a little bit more of the prove it side. The secondary still needs talent and development. I don't not just a talent thing. It is also, I think, a development thing, which is not groundbreaking by any means. We've known this for multiple years now. We've talked about the additions that will be coming in. We're very high on Mansour Delaney, Jakeem Jackson, DJ Pickett, those guys. But then also we'll see Javian Toviano, Deshaun Spears, assuming, Jordan Gilbert's back. Those guys need to continue to step up. And then PJ Woodland, like we talked about, maybe Michael Turner. There still needs to be that interior development. Ashton Stamps, like that type of development still needs to happen along with the influx of talent. So it has
Yeah.
to be twofold here. I think this bowl game was another reminder of just kind of how far LSU is in terms of the secondary. Also, though, I don't think I do want to make this point. I made this point in my story. I didn't think it was a great like game from Blake Baker. I felt like it was really vanilla. Like they just played man the whole time. Cover 1, cover 0. Those corners were on islands. So I think it was a bad way to end the season for the corners, Zai, Ashton. But I also don't think they were put in great spots there, which was
Baylor went out and made plays. I mean,
and Baylor made plays, made throws. We knew Sawyer Robertson was a good quarterback. So I don't think they're as bad as what like Zai was not bad this season. But still there needs to be an
when you
influx
throw
of
it
talent.
51 times, you're going to give up plays.
Yeah, there still needs to be an influx of talent and development this upcoming year because that is a huge question mark for this defense moving forward.
This is something we knew all offseason. This is something we knew the year prior and the year prior because it began with portal, and then now we're back to okay, high school and portal. And
Yeah.
I think Corey Raymond, Jake Olson, right guys for the job. Safety will be the big thing for me. I want to see if they can add another safety out of the portal. Delaney can play safety out of Virginia Tech if you need to, but if they can add a guy who's got proven experience at safety, I'd feel a lot better about that position. I'm certain the coaches would, and that's their goal. So we're keeping an eye on that. We'll have portal pods for you, but I'm with you, Matty B. And I think that the last people in the world that are going to argue that is Corey Raymond, Blake Baker, and Jake Olson. Like, I think they're very aware that that's the spot on defense that they still need to make real strides at and could struggle again. Like, you could start DJ Pickett. You could start Jakeem Jackson, your transfer out of Florida, former number 3 corner who's started games in the SEC at UF. But, like, you're still going to have to bring Pickett along. Aiden Anding, like number 1 corner in Louisiana, you still have to bring him along. So there's still going to be road bumps, I think. But if it's getting better, and as you said, the development's there, you feel better about it. My number 8 point was very quick and easy. I just thought that, again, without Chris Hilton, or excuse me, without CJ Daniels and Kyron Lacey and Mason Taylor at tight end, I didn't know what the passing game would look like. Obviously, we've talked about Trey'Dez Green. He stepped up in a huge way, but Anderson didn't play a great game, but we know what he can do. And I say he didn't play a great game. I could bring up his stats. It's
8
actually
for
like
91.
yeah, it's like that. But he had some
Yes.
drops. Like he would not tell you he played a good game. If you looked at only the stat sheet, that's a great game.
Yeah.
Hilton went off, and then Xavier Thomas. That was his best game, like for me, and yes, he had the return for the touchdown, but like they had to put him at receiver. We knew that. They targeted him a
4
handful of times.
4
I know
times,
that
3 catches.
yeah, he caught a few balls.
Yeah.
Had probably averaged about 10 yards catch, but one
Mhm.
of them was a big one for like 17, 20 yards. So they'll also use him tossing the ball to him like they do Aaron Anderson on sweeps. So I really liked what I saw from that group when you've got Kyle Parker and you've got um, other guys on this team.
Yeah. Billy-O,
Gosh, who am I missing? Billy,
Billy-O,
yes, and Jelani
Jelani.
Watkins. If you want to talk about how fast they are, and then you bring in maybe the best portal receiver in Baron Brown out of Kentucky, a speedster, Nick Anderson. I am out of OU, who 2 years ago was dynamic. Then he got hurt. I love kind of the under the radar take of Destin Hill. And I saw him at the bowl game. He is ready to roll type. Like physically, you're like, okay, yep, I see it.
He's
He
older.
could shock some people. So
Yeah.
let's see how it goes. I feel a lot better about the receiver room right now because of what I saw from the bowl game, coupled with what they did in the portal and what they've got returning.
Exactly. I don't have too much to add on that. I think the speed, which we talked about being a hindrance this season because Chris Hilton was absent. And this was it's funny, I look back on our podcast throughout the season, it was like, man, we did talk about Hilton a lot early in the year because we were like, man, if they had Hilton, this and that, he ends up only, not playing really. I feel kind of vindicated in that sense of saying like, yeah, we were right to talk about him this much because the speed is what this offense needs, and it's just a complete game changer. So to have him to have Barian Brown, to have that type of speed on the perimeter, I think is going to be huge for this offense. So I agree 100%. This is feel great about the receiver room now compared to where I was last year. Last year at this time, we were hoping Sheldon Sampson could develop. So
Yeah, well,
we'll see.
he has hit the portal, correct? He was
UL.
one of the guys.
Yep.
That's where he landed. Okay.
Yes. Yep. You will.
All right. Well, we get to watch him
ULL.
stay in state.
Yes. I don't want to get
All
yelled
right.
at.
Louisiana.
Louisiana Lafayette.
Where am I? Is it my turn?
9. It's my turn. 9.
9. Okay.
9. Computer might die.
Oh, I thought you were bringing a prop out. All
No.
right, keep
I'm
going.
gonna try to plug this in. Last time I did this, it killed my stream. All right, we're good. All right, Blake Baker, number 9. I think he learned a lot this season, and I think this was similar to Sloan. So I would put Sloan in this conversation as well in terms of these two learning what it takes at LSU, but then also what they need to match their systems. And I highlight Baker in particular because of it was a hard year at defensive tackle, right? It was a hard year where they went into the season saying, all right, how are we going to use Harold Perkins? They were just the secondary clearly was a question mark. There were so many question marks entering the season. I don't think Blake Baker ever really got to the point where he wanted with this defense to where he could match the scheme with the personnel. And I think he's been able to do that with the transfer portal to get players like a Jamari Butler, like a Patrick Payton, in that can do
Jack
what he
Pyburn,
needs.
yeah.
Jack Pyburn as well. But I think just in general, this was a big year for him to learn, all right, this worked at Missouri, but this is what it's going to take to work at LSU. And this is what it's going to take to get LSU's defense to where it needs to be. Because at Missouri, you can kind of run, I don't want to call it gadgety stuff, but you can kind of really be aggressive and just kind of sell out because, your standards at Missouri are a little lower. LSU, I think it took him a little bit of time to realize, okay, this is how we compete with Alabama's. This is how we compete with Ole Miss's and kind of learn from theirs. But I think it was a good year for Blake Baker. He met the expectations that we had coming into the season of being average as a defense. But now it's how do you get to the next level? And I think this year was big for him to learn that.
Just to give for some perspective here, they finished 108 in total defense a year ago out of 133 teams. Matty B, I'm not going to say who the 133rd team was last year.
Don't do it.
I'm not going to do it to you. They have a bowl game coming up, though, and
Tomorrow.
you graduated from there. But yes, 108 is what they finished last year. This year they finished 60 in total defense. So 61, sorry, 60 in scoring. So you more or less you cut that in half, which
Yeah.
is what we said we wanted to see, just like cut it in half. They did it. Basically, it was a lot of the same players as you mentioned, without Perkins, Guillory. I mean, there were a number of
Yep.
starters that weren't there. So I'm with you. I think that between the portal, high school, and what he's got back, and getting a feel for his staff, Corey Raymond, Bo
Mm-hmm.
Davis. I mean, he had worked with Peoples and Olson before, but I think that group now will be a lot better moving forward. My 10th and final one is this. LSU, what they did in high school recruiting, and they had Underwood until the 11th hour when Michigan comes in with a billionaire to steal him away. And I hated that they lost Cade Phillips, a 5-star corner who I'm a big fan of. And he went back and forth. He had committed to Texas, flipped to LSU. And then in the end, Texas just, I think, really made an offer that an in state kid couldn't turn away. And he went with the Longhorns. But they still signed Aiden Anding, a number one corner in Louisiana, DJ Pickett, number one corner overall. He was at bowl practice. And then, as we've touched on, portal guys, but just in general, what they did in the portal, what they did in high school, how they closed it out. I think you could argue they probably have the best portal class, if not the top 2 or 3. And if you're in that group, then you did very well. But they came out and said, and then what you started, let's go back to number one, Nuss. He could have been a first rounder. Like, he's not coming back to school for free, no matter if his dad's Doug Nussmeier, and his coach 30 years in the NFL or not. Like,
Yeah.
to put all that in place after Brian Kelly came out and said, we are going to be aggressive in the portal, they raised a good bit of money right after that. And they quickly made things happen in the portal that other teams pointed to in the SEC, Bama's and you name it, and said, well, why are we not being that active? How can we be that active? Sitting at 14 guys. We know they want safeties. So a new punter, guys on offense and defense. It just speaks to me that they're looking at next year is not like, oh, it's, we should win 10 games. It's, we need to be in the playoffs. What do we have to do to get there? And this is what you have to do. Attack the portal in December, do well in signing day. I thought they did both. So for me, Brian Kelly, and let's really just say the staff, the collective, the university, whatever you want, whomever you want to include, lived up to that end of the bargain, because that's what they promised going into the portal season right after they signed a good high school class.
Yeah. And we talked about it, I think, a little bit throughout the season and last podcast. It's like, after going 8-4 and now 9-4 is still, behind where you want to be. You look at it even from Alabama, Ole Miss perspective of getting to 9-3, and that's still with the playoff has changed, expectations to where it's like if you don't make the playoffs at this level, where we're talking about the Alabamas, the LSU's, the A&Ms, the go down the list of basically everybody in the SEC, if you don't make the playoffs, it is, for all intents and purposes, a failure. Now, is that fair? Is that not fair? We'll see how, things move in coming years, whatnot, if the playoff expands or whatever. But like, that is the standard now. And through 3 years, LSU hasn't been to that standard. And now next year, because of Nuss coming back, because of Brian Kelly's call for impact, call for change, he has received the amount of feedback that I think he's needed. And I think that this program needed to be competitive next year. I remember when Underwood was committed, a lot of people were like, all right, well, if Nuss moves on, it's kind of a rebuilding 2025. You have all these freshmen. You have a really fun class. That's no longer the case anymore. You bring back a lot of talent. You add a lot of talent from the portal, and it is now a year where it's not an all-in season. I think that's too strong of a word, but I think it's a season where you're definitely playing for the playoffs.
100%. Your team is better than it was a year ago, significantly on paper. So you should be competing for the playoffs. And they were only a game or two away from that this year, right?
Yeah.
So be interested to see Clemson. It'll be here in no time. Kick it off. Your wishes are not granted. They're not playing any nobodies in week 1 to get an easy win. They will be playing Clemson, and Klubnik's coming back. So we'll have a Nuss versus Klubnik matchup.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and LSU's probably, like, just to prepare everybody, LSU's probably gonna go into that game as an underdog on the road, against Clemson. But
Yeah, I
that is
wouldn't be shocked by that.
no, first, yeah. But again, first game of the season. Let's just enjoy it and let's see how it goes. But we have 8 months to talk
Yeah,
about that
long way to
game.
go.
Um, plenty
Well,
to
happy
talk
New
about.
Year to everybody. Those are 10 things that we took away from the game and season and ended an off season that is only just beginning because they're going to, like I said, we'll do a portal podcast, but portal isn't done. And then, guys, I mean, March will be here in no time
Yeah.
when they're doing spring ball. So thank you to everybody. Happy New
Yeah.
Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for subscribing to the Bengal Tiger On3, subscribing to our YouTube channel, liking our videos, everything, sticking with us throughout the year. We have a lot planned for 2025 as well, so stay tuned for all of that. Yeah, send it to a friend, leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening. We really appreciate it. We will talk to you all later.